Hello everyone, and welcome back to the CMEO English Language Learning channel. Today we're talking about how to answer questions. What tenses do we use, right? It's very common for students to feel a bit nervous, not sure if they should be using present tense, past tense, future tense, present perfect, past perfect, right? So when we're answering questions, again, it depends on the context. If you're listening for signals just in everyday conversations, say with friends, family, work, often the answer will be in the question. Okay, so if someone asks you, what is your favorite way to relax? What do you like to do to relax? You can absolutely answer this in the present tense. Up to you if you want to give some examples. So for instance, it's like, oh, I love going to the movies. I like listening to music. Sometimes I practice drawing or singing. So you don't have to use the past tense for something like that unless you might say, oh, look, I'm so busy. I don't even have time to relax. But back when I wasn't as busy, I used to go to the gym, or I used to go to the coffee shop with my friends. So it's perfectly fine to talk about the past anytime, but particularly when you don't have as much to say for the present. If you're talking about IELTS though, a lot of part one questions will be about routines or hobbies, for instance. So anything that's about, tell me about a typical day at school or a normal day for you. It's very normal to be using present tense. On Mondays, I always wake up at 6 a.m., then I go to the coffee shop, then I do my homework. So that's quite normal. However, if they're asking you about something that happened in the past, then of course they would be expecting you to use the past tense. It could be simple past, could be past perfect. So something like, what was your favorite book as a child? Okay, what was? That is a clue that they're expecting some sort of past tense. Like, oh, when I was a child, I enjoyed the Harry Potter books very much. Okay? So let's have a look. And there'll be questions about the future. Like, what do you hope to accomplish in the next 5 years? So hope, that's a clue. In the next 5 years is a clue that they're looking for the future. So we can't really use the present tense to answer that, and we can't use the past tense really completely. We have to talk about the future. Oh, I hope I will study overseas, or I'm going to move to another country. Okay, so that's just an example. So I'm going to have a look now at some practice IELTS speaking tests and look at some realistic situations, and we'll have a look at whether we think we should be using present, past, or future tenses. So first question I'm looking at here is, do you work or are you a student? So do and are, right? Or it means right now, like what's happening now. It's like, oh, right now I am working part-time and I am a student, a university student studying biology. Okay, so that one, present, is fine. Let's see, what do you like about your job? What do you, meaning now, what do you like about your job? So if you have a job, you can use your present tense. It's like, oh, I love my work. You could mix it up, say, I have been working there for 10 years. You could add that in for sure. So in that case, you definitely want to talk about now, what's happening now, but you can give that extra information, and you can add different tenses if you're trying to talk about how long something's been going on. If you don't have a job now, but you used to have one, you can absolutely refer to the past tense. Say, oh, I'm not working at the moment, but I was a teacher at this school, or I used to be a football player. Then you can absolutely change tenses then. It has to be so they make it relevant to you. Now, part two questions often are talking about the past, often. So one example might be, describe a vacation you have really enjoyed. You should say where you went, who you traveled with, what you did, and why you enjoyed the holiday. So all of these are using past tense, so they're going to expect past tense. A lot of students get nervous and immediately revert to the present tense, which I understand. When you're nervous, it's very common. A lot of students do this, even the ones that have excellent grammar, right? It's a sign of being nervous. So I do recommend, if you are doing an IELTS exam and you have a part 2 question and you know that you have a problem with forgetting to use past tenses, write a few down just to remind yourself in your notes. So I went, right? I went to Tokyo rather than I go to Tokyo. I traveled with my best friend. Let's see, what did you do? We went shopping. We did karaoke. We ate lots of delicious food. If you want to get more fancy, say, I had never been there before, if you want to add that level of detail. But generally, this one is a pretty clear sign that they're expecting some past tense forms. And again, depending on your English level and skill, up to you on what forms you'll be able to use. But we don't want present tense. The only time you might use future tense for this one would be you had an amazing time, it was fantastic, and you hope that you will go back in the future. That could work. Now, if we're looking at part 3, this could be a future, it could be a present, it could be a past, it could be comparing time periods. So it is very important to listen to the question carefully. So a question like, why do people want to travel to go away for a holiday? Okay, why? People want to go on holiday because they lead busy lives, they get really exhausted and stressed out, and they need a break. Now, I just use present tense there because they're asking generally why people like to do something. If they're asking about, how will the tourist industry grow in the next 10 to 20 years, right? That's future focused. So you're going to be making guesses, prediction like, I'm not sure, but I think that food tours will become more common. Vietnam has a lot of delicious food and lots of visitors want to try food, but don't necessarily know where to go, where to start. So in my opinion, food tourism will be the next big thing. There'll be something like, how have holidays changed in the last 50 years? Or how has education changed in the last 50 years? This can be a very challenging question, but you could talk about what things were like using the past tense, comparing it to today in present tense, right? So if we're talking about technology, how has technology changed in the last 50 years? So, well, when my grandparents were young, there weren't even computers, right? There were no computers, there was no internet, there was no studying online. But today, it is very easy. We have apps, everyone has a smartphone, and lots of people enjoy spending time online. So my suggestion for all of these is look at the question, because the question will give you a clue as to what tenses you need to answer, right? Is it something now? Then you can be using some present tense mostly. Talking about the past, you're going to look at all your past tense options, what you feel comfortable with. Are they talking about something that hasn't happened yet into the future? Then we're going to use the future tenses. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. Stay calm. Take a moment to think of, are they asking about now? Something that happened that's done already or happened in the past? Or are they talking about your ideas for what will happen in the future? And the clues are right there. All right, everyone. I hope that you have gotten some great tips today. Keep practicing, because practicing makes progress. We look forward to seeing you next time.